representatives of Pacific Islands and Timor-Leste government, DFET representatives, members of the media, Bula Vinaka, and a very warm welcome to all our Pacific Islands and Timor-Leste brothers and sisters. This is indeed a family occasion, or in Fijian, we say our vuvale, just like our bilateral relations with Australia. On behalf of our Fijian government, I'm honored to be present here this morning to firstly warmly welcome you all here in Nadi, and secondly, to acknowledge the continued support from the Australian government for such golden opportunities for all Pacific Islanders and Timor-Leste. We all have a long history with Australia, including in the very important area of employment opportunities under the labour mobility schemes, opportunities under our labour mobility programs such as the Pacific Australia Labour Mobility Scheme and the New Zealand RAC program are important to the scope and variety of opportunities for labour force movements. It fills an important part of the structure of our employment options and provides a viable alternative to employment opportunities in our home countries. We are also mindful of the risk of such opportunities, and I'm pleased to see among the agenda items discussions on this front. This has been highlighted within our ministry and in our Fiji government discussions. We will continue to monitor this and make sure we have a best fit solution to satisfy all parties. On the same note, I also welcome the discussions as outlined among the agenda items on family accompaniments on this program. As a government, we are naturally concerned with the social impact of labour mobility programs, as much as we welcome the economic and material opportunities that it provides in the Pacific. The family is at the core of our social makeup. This is a timely and welcome addition to the program, as it will no doubt benefit all parties. It will bring stability to the workers through the family support around them. At the same time, it will enable a more subtle and productive worker in Australia. This is in line with a firm commitment from the Australian government to expand and improve the PALM scheme with a range of reforms to strengthen its opportunities and mitigate on its risk. And I wish to convey our Fijian government's thanks for this initiative that in the best tradition of the vuvale or family spirit which blesses our relations. As the minister responsible for employment here in Fiji, and also where our labour sending unit is based, I have been receiving regular calls from members of the public and the media on when and how can family members join their loved ones that are currently working in Australia, or how do we manage family separation to reduce social issues both in Australia and at home. As I have highlighted before, that this agenda item will be deliberated with keen interest from all participants during the next 2 days. And hopefully, my statement on the mutual benefit of the family accompaniment, along with the moral and human rights obligation that align with it, will be given voice during your deliberations and discussions. I am sure that you will deal in great detail on the importance of family welfare and well-being in these discussions. and the impact it will have, and given that over 10% of the total members currently employed are under the long-term scheme in Australia. With DFAT leading the discussions, partner governments to discuss the PALM scheme reforms as a group and as a matter of regional importance, I'm confident of positive outcomes. While we acknowledge that a number of participating countries have amended and signed their revised MOUs under the PALM scheme, Fiji awaits the new implementation arrangements before we finalize our revised MOU. In sharing our current experience as an LSU under the PALM program and considering the growing demands together with the high number of documents or paperwork required, my team has been working long hours silently behind the scene to meet deadlines, and we feel that even with the current 5 weeks window from approval to worker departure from home country is still insufficient. This is a backlash that my ministry is getting from our local employers when selected workers resign at the last minute or even depart without proper resignation or handover of duties. This is a sensitive issue that I believe is something that is experienced by other LSUs, and we look forward to hearing more on your experience and also sharing your challenges. Lastly, as we embark on our gathering here in Nandi for the very first time for such an important consultation, I hope this will be the first of many such meetings between Pacific Island and Timor-Leste partner governments. We must work closely together, share information, best practices to ensure that all our workers, together with their families, are offered the best that Australia can offer. And we know that Australia offers many competitive advantages to our workers, and it will continue to provide conditions that look after the well-being of all workers and their families. May I once again convey on behalf of the Fijian government our very warm welcome and wishing you all fruitful discussions for the next 2 days. Vinaka, and God bless us.
Bula Vinaka. My name is Carly Shillito and I'm the Assistant Secretary for Pacific Labour Policy and Engagement in Canberra. I lead the PALM scheme work in the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. I'd like to begin by thanking the Honourable Minister Bala for taking time out of your busy schedule to meet with us today. I thank you for your very constructive comments, and I can assure you we will be looking in great detail and very keen to understand the perspectives of all our Pacific partners on family accompaniment, and your comments about the 5-week processing time are well noted. We will take those on board as well. I also echo Anna's sentiments and thank all of you for travelling from far and wide to meet with us over the next 2 days to discuss the PALM scheme, and in particular the Australian Government's agenda for reforming the PALM scheme. Today's gathering represents Australia's friendship and commitment to partner and consult closely with the Pacific as part of one family, as Vuvale, as Minister Bala mentioned earlier. The PALM scheme is highly valued by Australia, and it's also valued by the Pacific and Timor-Leste. Our government is committed to its expansion and to its improvement. We recognise the outstanding contribution that Pacific and Timor-Leste workers have made to our economy, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, along with the really important contribution that Pacific and Timor-Leste workers make to the cultural and economic vibrancy of communities across Australia, particularly in rural and regional Australia. I want to acknowledge your country's contribution and partnership with Australia in growing the PALM scheme. At the end of September this year, there were more than 29,000 PALM scheme workers in Australia. That's a really significant increase over the past 12 months. In addition, there are more than 40,000 pre-screened workers awaiting job offers across the Pacific and Timor-Leste. So there's plenty more opportunity for expansion there as well. And while we know this has really helped to generate important remittances for your countries and helped workers build skills that will be of value when they return home and can make a contribution to your home economies, we also know that we can do more to maximise the benefits of the scheme and to minimise the negative impacts. And Minister Bala touched on some of those earlier today. So we're really interested in hearing more from you on how we can do that. We are consulting closely with our Pacific family to understand your perspectives on the PALM scheme, and we will listen to you very carefully over the next 2 days because we care what you and your countries have to say about these issues. That's also a message that Minister Wong and Minister Conroy, the two ministers responsible for Pacific engagement related to the PALM scheme, have made very clear to us. They are here to listen and we want to hear what you have to say. As I think you're all aware, the Australian Government has announced several measures to improve and expand the PALM scheme and is committed to ensuring that stakeholder perspectives are incorporated in the detailed design of those commitments. The 4 key commitments are, and as Minister Bala mentioned already, for long-term PALM workers to be able to bring their families to Australia subject to employer sponsorship, relocating the former government's proposed Australian agriculture visa within the PALM scheme to provide more opportunities for Pacific and Timor-Leste workers, to reduce the burden of upfront travel costs for employers to encourage greater participation in the scheme, and a very strong commitment to strengthening worker protections through a range of measures, but including implementing the recommendations of Australia's Migrant Worker Task Force. My team has been leading a series of stakeholder consultations to gather views and feedback on the proposed reforms to Pacific labour. We've now held more than 20 consultations, both face-to-face and virtually in Australia, and have used our formal PALM governance and consultation structures to seek views from ambassadors and stakeholders. We've also scheduled one-on-one discussions with High Commissioners and ambassadors in Australia to hear their views on the PALM scheme. It's important to note that our colleagues at the Department of Employment and Workplace Relations have been a critical partner in these consultations. The government has made a really strong commitment to co-design so that any policy decisions that are made have a clear view to being able to be operationalised. So at every one of those consultations, our colleagues from Department of Employment and Workplace Relations, or DEWA, have been present, and they will continue to be a really important part. And I thank you, Carrie, for joining us today. In addition, we've tasked our posts to consult with key stakeholders within our PALM partner countries to collect country-specific feedback on the proposed reforms, and we look forward to continuing that conversation. Key themes that have emerged from these consultations so far include the need for better preparation of workers and their families prior to mobilisation, support for and better treatment of workers in Australia, including the importance of workers developing skills that they can use on return to their home countries, the need to do more for workers when they return home, including support for reintegration and access to the superannuation that they earned while they were in Australia, the impact of the PALM scheme on economies and domestic workforces across the region, and I thank you for raising that again this morning, Minister Bala, the social impacts related to workers being separated from their families, and potential challenges associated with family accompaniment, balanced, of course, against the really strong benefits that having families travel to Australia together provide. We have gathered here today and will also come together tomorrow to listen to partner government viewpoints, to discuss the proposed reforms as a group, and to share our experiences and explore solutions to challenges that we've identified together. We hope that this will help us to map a way forward that supports each country to get what it wants to get out of the PALM scheme. Today we will focus on key elements of the PALM scheme workers' journey. We've broken that down into 3 sessions: before workers mobilise, while they are in Australia, and when they return home. We also welcome more general comments and suggestions that may go beyond the PALM reforms that have been announced by government. And tomorrow we will focus our discussion on 3 key policy announcements related to family accompaniment, travel costs, upfront travel costs for seasonal workers, and the Pacific Engagement Visa. We've built in plenty of time for informal discussions during morning and afternoon teas, lunches and dinner, and we really encourage you to take advantage of those opportunities to make connections with your counterparts and to discuss solutions that you're each developing in your own countries. We expect that there's a lot that you can all learn from each other, and certainly a lot that the Australian government can learn. We will break for morning tea shortly, but before we do, I would like to reiterate my gratitude to you, Minister Bala, for taking time out of your schedule to be here, and it really is at the core of our Vuvale relationship, so thank you so much. I will say, Vinaka Vakalevu, thank you very much. Let's have a great 2 days, and again, thank you, Minister Bala, and let's take a photo together to mark the occasion.